Hi everyone, horror is a really weird thing. If you think about it, a horror piece of media is generally just made to make you feel uncomfortable, and as such it has to somewhere be one of the weirdest forms of pleasure and self-torture out there. Now, I never quite feel as uncomfortable as with horror. I'm not a good person for horror. However, I genuinely find myself pretty attracted to it, especially the weirder side of horror. Now you might be wondering, what do I mean with the weirder side of horror? Well, of course my friends, I mean things such as H.P. Lovecraft, Junji Ito are sort of the bigger examples for me of the super weird side of horror. Now, tonight I want to focus mainly on Junji Ito because we're going to be talking about a game that's based around Junji Ito's work. And if you don't know Junji Ito, he is a manga horror artist. He has made anywhere from really disturbing to really disturbing mangas. I again recommend going and checking out the one called Layers. A quick idea, like a quick version of it would be Layers is essentially a manga that exists where a woman gets into a car accident. It's then discovered that she has multiple layers of herself, so if you peel her skin back you can find a younger version. Her mother then abuses that fact to try to, keep her young forever. It is really disturbing. I recommend going and checking it out if you couldn't tell. What you just heard and the general idea of H.P. Lovecraft and Junji Ito is the idea of cosmic horror. Cosmic horror is generally the horror that comes with the realization that humans are a very small part of the universe and that there's likely some god or creature out in the universe that could instantly wipe out our entire civilization and there's nothing we can do about it. That is cosmic horror in general. It's given these themes and ideas out, and unfortunately in modern media it is a very rare thing to come across. You don't often see cosmic horror being done, period. And when it's done, it's usually done really badly. That's because cosmic horror is not something you can have in your face. It's very subtle. It's not something you can have pop up and scream at you. You can't see this giant monster or whatever and then feel cosmic horror. And again, that's because it's about the themes around it, not as much about the monster itself. So it's no surprise that when you're trying to translate it into a video game period, it doesn't usually go that well. However, there is one exception to that, and that is the game I call Steam's weirdest horror game, and I will be talking about it right now. World of Horrors is a little bit different to most other horror games in that it is a RPG turn-based point-and-click adventure horror game, which is to say that this one is sort of different in the sense that you don't really have any direct control of where you're going. You click on a picture, it then takes you to like the map of that area, and you then have the option to investigate, and that's pretty much it. At some point you then enter a fight. You then have a AP meter, which is where the turn-based combat comes in. An AP meter, you have a certain amount of actions you can take per turn. You take your, actions per that turn. You launch a sequence of either attacks or maybe attacks and spell. Maybe you attack and then you guard. There's multiple options and there's like a lot of different things you can do. Or maybe you're like me and you just run away mostly. And that's your fighting, that's your combat. So you don't have a whole lot of options here. What you have is pretty good. However, what's more interesting to me is the monster designs, because one of the more interesting elements of cosmic horror is that it doesn't necessarily have to be like super bloody or visually gory to really sort of hammer in the point. One of the scariest moments in World of Horrors to me, and when I completely spoil it, it's from one of your investigations, which are essentially the way you progress through the story. But my favorite moment in the game's story, if you can call it that, again, keep in mind this is completely random and you could, just simply not get this investigation, is doing the high school investigation, where you, after having drawn the right symbol to attract the murder monster, see this woman with 3 different faces. I don't know what about her creeps me out as much as it does, but there's something there. And again, that is sort of the idea of, again, cosmic horror. This idea that there's something beyond our, well, beyond our like entire brain. We can literally not fathom what's out there. That's the idea of cosmic horror, and that's what this game nails. Because not only is that, but you also have random events around the town. It can be a floating body. It can be, you know, the Yakuza pointing on the shoulder going, hey bro. Like, it can be anywhere from funny to really fucked up. And often it feels like, in World of Horror's case, it does super well. And that's, I think, is partially because of the graphics. Because if you haven't noticed, it's obviously pixelated, but it's done in 2-bit. Which is not the most usual and common style anymore. You can also get a 1-bit, you can also get different colors for it, but that's an entirely different story. There's a lot of customization with like the looks and the visuals of the game. But you don't see that anymore as much as you used to. And I think it hammers in this 90s retro wave aesthetic in combination with the horror that it hits you with. And that makes for a truly unique experience. I really can't with words describe how much I like it. And that's partially again because the game is somewhat simple. There isn't a whole lot to describe, right? There's not a lot to talk about. But there is definitely a game that I feel like deserves a shout out. And that's essentially what this video is. There's one last thing I wanted to talk about before I end this video. I know it's short, on the short side, especially in comparison to some of the things that I do want to do, but that's on the short side. One more thing though. World of Horrors has mods. I have no fucking idea how you get these to work. I spent half an hour trying. I'm a little bit salty, I'm also a little bit tired, but I think it's worth, you know, just talking about, because World of Horrors modding goes places. It goes anywhere from replacing the entirety of the world with things such as, my personal favorite mod by the way, the Chainsaw Man universe. You can have World of Chainsaw Man if that's really something you're into. But, and I know that is definitely also a thing, people have also made Vine Source mods, like the streamer Vine Source, where you can have things such as my meat as characters and so on. Another mod that I feel like is worth a shout out is the McGruff, the crime dog character mod and personal events, where you can play as McGruff the crime dog from the old comics. There's like a plenitude of different things people can do with mods. I still don't know how they work. I'll leave that up to you all. If you know how it works, please leave it down in the comments. I'd love to mod this game. I'd love to have other mods the same. I cannot figure it out. I've tried. I spent half an hour. I've put in the towel. I'm too lazy. I don't have much more to say about it other than that. I just wanted to also give, you know, the shout out to the mods, because they are cool and they are awesome. World of Horrors is a game that's available on Steam. It works with Steam. They can also buy it on Agent. There's a demo for it. I recommend at least giving it a go. Even if you aren't into horror, I'm not either, then this is definitely one that's worth looking into and picking up. But that's been it for me. My links for Twitch and stuff is down in the description if you wanna, you know, check out that for free. I try to stream every other day, and in addition to that, I also would love it if you could sub to the channel if you somewhat enjoyed this. Obviously I'm used to this, so I'm still trying to improve, but we'll get that one day. So yeah. For now, that's it, and I'll catch you all later.